We do have a quorum that is present. And before we get to the motion on the minutes, I just wanted to remind the committee and members of the public that this hearing will go till 10 o'clock. We will recess and reconvene in this room, Capitol 120, at 6 p.m. So our first item of business are the minutes from January 5th. Do we have a motion, Representative Petersburg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll move the minutes of January 5th.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Representative Petersburg. And now we have one bill on our agenda for today and this evening, and that is House File 4. And our author is Representative Gomez, and she'll be joined by Representative Perez-Vega in making the presentation on the bill. But before we do that, we need a motion to get this bill before us. Representative Tabke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the House File 4 be referred to the Transportation, Finance, and, we got that wrong. Judiciary Committee. Thank you. I move that the House File 4 be referred to the Judiciary Committee.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we do have an author's amendment. Is Representative Gomez is here. Excellent. It's our custom and usage, again, for the public and for new members of the committee that the author of the bill has the opportunity to amend their own bill before us to get the bill in the shape that they would like us to consider it in. So, Representative Gomez, I believe we have first an A7 and then an A10. Or, I'm sorry, A8 and A10.
A8 and A10, yes.
Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chair
Chairwoman
Hornstein.
Gomez.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, so I have two authors' amendments. The A8 amendment adds the fiscal note that we received from DPS. And the A10 modifies language. It's sort of some cleanup of some data practices, provisions ensuring that, you know, the application that people fill out doesn't refer directly to the documents that they use to file, that the cards don't bear an indicator related to immigration status or citizenship, and that basically, like, no entity of the government can use the possession of one of these licenses as evidence related to citizenship or immigration status.
Excellent. So, I'll move the A8 amendment, and Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm kind of working a little in the dark here. Will we have those fiscal notes shortly?
Yes, so we have the fiscal note, and we also have an explanation of this from Mr. Lee. Do we have the actual fiscal note, Ms. Schmidt? We may not have it in the packets, but we have it in amendment form.
Mr. Chair. Okay.
It's on the way, I understand.
And the other question is just whether or not there are funds in those particular accounts
Yeah,
as
and
well.
we will, we'll have a thorough discussion of this. First, we'll have an explanation of the fiscal note from Mr. Lee. And again, for those watching, this is there's a financial cost to this bill. And so anytime there's a financial cost, we need to review those in this committee. And so Mr. Lee will go over that, and we also have folks from the Driver and Vehicle Services Division of the Department of Public Safety to further respond to your question. So, Mr. Lee.
Mr. Chair and members, the fiscal note for House File 4 has three components to it. There is an appropriation that is included in the A8 amendment that appropriates dollars from the driver services operating account. In the fiscal note, in the original House File 4, it's from the general fund, but the A8 amendment uses the driver services operating account. And that is $1.453 million in fiscal 2024 and $1.413 million in fiscal 2025. and then an increase to the base of just under 900,000 a year in the 26-27 biennium. The second piece of the fiscal note is a absorbed cost to the driver services technology account. That's for programming related to this bill. And then the final piece is an estimate for increased fee revenue to the driver services operating account of an estimate as a result of increased transactions because of the House File 4 $361,000 in increased fee revenue to the driver services account in fiscal 2024 and $180,000 in each year after fiscal 2024. The fiscal note also notes an increase in FTEs in order to implement legislation in House File 4. DVS estimates 16 total additional FTEs in fiscal 2024 and 2025. That's not an additional 16, that's just an additional 16 for the full biennium. And then a reduction to 10 additional FTEs in fiscal 2026 and 7. And of those FTEs, 12 would be exam administrators, 2 office specialists, 2 administrators for DRs, and again, note the decrease in 6 exam workers starting after fiscal 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Are there questions to the fiscal note? We'll have that, the actual note in front of people here in a minute. But this is we do have the amendment which describes what Mr. Lee was discussing. And Representative Petersburg, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just think if we could, I'm not sure how to do this process-wise, Mr. Chair, but without that information in front of us to actually review, whether or not we could just hold off on.
I think that's a good suggestion, Representative Petersburg, and we'll hold off on taking a vote on this particular amendment until folks have the physical note in front of them. I think that's a good suggestion, Representative Petersburg. So we'll hold off on that. We'll incorporate it at the appropriate time, Representative Gomez, but to the A10, we can do that one now.
Yeah, apologies, Chair, I sort of smushed them both into one.
It's okay.
So the A10 is about data practices, and it talks about what information is shared on the application form, indicating that it shouldn't say on the application form what the accompanying documents are, which were used to demonstrate identity. That's sort of the main change in terms of the underlying bill, as what are the primary documents that are allowed to be used to establish the identity of the applicant. And so it's basically just about like ensuring that information about somebody's immigration status is not communicated to across sort of state agencies or political subdivisions, and that the cards themselves don't have an indicator related to immigration status or citizenship.
Thank you. So I will move the A10 amendment, and is there discussion or questions of the author on the A10? Representative Petersburg.
Thank you. There are an awful lot of other non-compliant, non-real ID, non-enhanced IDs there. And 1.18 through 1.20, does that then apply to those licenses as well? If the author knows.
Chair Gomez.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Hornstein and Lead Petersburg. So this is basically stating that, if you have a non-compliant license, that is not evidence of a person's citizenship or lawful presence, and that the possession of a non-compliant license should not be used as the basis for investigation, detention, or arrest. I do want to just mention to the chair and Lead Petersburg and other members of the committee that this bill's next stop is judiciary, as that's where it's moving to. And so there will be a more complete kind of discussion of the data practices components of the bill in that committee, but we sort of are trying to get done what we can as we move along. So I'm not sure if that gets to your question, Lee Petersburg.
Representative Petersburg.
Not really. My question is that it sounds like this license is going to be identical to those that have chosen not to go to a real ID because they have a passport or something else. And so I'm just inquiring as if this is intended to also be indicative of all of those licenses for those that do have legal status. And that's the question is,
Yeah.
is this universal across the board to even those that do have legal citizenship?
Representative Gomez.
Chair Hornstein and Rep. Petersburg, I mean, I would say yes, because I'm kind of looking at my lawyer friends over there. No, okay, that's a no. Could I invite a lawyer friend up to help me? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So I think, so you're asking if this provision applies to other non-compliant licenses, not enhanced or real ID, right?
Correct.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Thank you, Representative Petersburg. Any further discussion? Okay, again, we're moving to have this bill in the form that the author would like us to consider it. And so, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion prevails.
No.
Okay, motion prevails. Okay, and with that, the bill as amended is before us. And again, we will be returning to the fiscal note in a little bit here. But we have a number of testifiers, and we want to have a presentation of the bill from our co-authors first. And the floor is yours, Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Chair Hornstein, Lee Petersburg, and members of the committee. Before you today is House File 4, which is driver's licenses for all. Representative Perez Vega and I are honored to be in front of this committee today. Daughters of the West Side and the South Side, Minneapolis and St. Paul, alongside so many from our beautiful Latino community and immigrants and refugees of all backgrounds, alongside and on the shoulders of Minnesotans of every race and culture, of every religion and belief system, and from all corners of this state. Thank you so much for having us today. This bill is many years, almost 20 years in the making. The community, some of whom are here today, and many more of whom are not present with us physically, but are here with us nonetheless on this day. This community has been organizing, marching, asking, demanding this change, which is really a restoration to pre-2003 policy, as we'll get into later as we dig into the bill. This bill is really about the tens of thousands of individuals and families who lack access to this basic need, a driver's license, so that they can safely and lawfully get to work, to medical appointments, they can transport their kids to school and activities. This bill is about the safety of everyone who drives on our roads. It's about ensuring that people who are driving have access to insurance, have demonstrated that they understand the rules of the road, and are able to operate a vehicle safely. It's about the vibrancy of our economy, and it's about human dignity. Starting in 2019, I just want to say former Majority Leader Ryan Winkler was the chief author of this bill. He led us as the Minnesota House passed it for the very first time in 2019, and before that, former Rep. Karen Clark carried it. Former GOP Representative Rod Hamilton from Worthington has been a steadfast supporter of this effort for years. More recently, Representatives Kosnick, West, Baker have all stepped up to support this effort, and we extend our thanks to them for all their work on this over many years. I will just say that despite that history of bipartisan support, the people sitting in these seats, this institution, the stewards of this institution, that's us now as members, we've not always heard and seen this community. This is unfinished business of the legislature and of this state. It didn't get done last time there was a DFL trifecta. This community was left behind in those conversations, and I just want to be straight up and say it was about political expediency. It wasn't because it was the right thing to do. I believe this community is owed an apology, but I also don't believe in empty apologies. I don't believe in words without deeds, and people don't need empty apologies. They need their inherent human dignity to be affirmed by our laws, and they need improvement of their material conditions, and that's what House File 4 will do. And I hope that the state will be offering this community an apology or an acknowledgement of our past failure in the form of a bill signed into law this year. You'll hear today from a few, more than a few, because we'll see you guys all back here at 6, but you're gonna hear from a few representatives of a really big and diverse coalition behind this effort. You're gonna hear from directly impacted people, some of whom appear here at great risk to themselves and their families. You're gonna hear from the business community who recognize the contributions of our undocumented neighbors to creating a thriving economy in our state. You're gonna hear from law enforcement who understand this as an effort that will increase the safety of our roads. And you'll hear from faith leaders of many traditions who will call on us to step into our better selves and to extend love and compassion to all members of our communities. And so I just hope as you listen today to this testimony that we'll kind of step back from political rhetoric and that we'll think of our own family stories, because many of our family stories involve migration. I hope you'll think of your own children if you have them, and what you would do to ensure that they have access to the things that they need. I invite you to humbly to listen to this testimony today with an open mind and an open heart. And I thank you again, Chair Hornstein, Lead Petersburg, and members for having us today. And we'll go to Representative Perez-Vega, and then we'll do a really brief overview of the bill and turn to testimony, if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you.
Welcome to the committee, Representative Perez-Vega, and please give us your perspective on the bill.
Gracias. Buenos dias. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and to all who have traveled near and far to be here with us today. I join you today as a proud co-author of House File Number 4, a bill to restore driver's licenses to immigrant workers and families that have built the state of Minnesota and continue to call this state home. Prior to 2003, a driver's license was nothing more than a statement of the ability to drive. During a national push to stoke anti-immigrant fear, policy was implemented to take licenses away from workers and families against the best advice of community leadership, like my colleague stated, public safety officials, faith leaders, business owners. After all, revoking a license doesn't stop the need to drive. It forces Minnesotans to drive in fear, uninsured, while on essential trips taking Minnesota kids to and from school, making it to the emergency room or to work on time. This fear is mostly deeply felt in small towns and rural communities where public transit often is not an option. 18 states, including Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, have protected or restored a common sense policy to prioritize the safety and security of workers and familias. Data will show that the restoration of driver's licenses has led to improved outcomes, including a reduction of hit and run accidents. But today, you will also hear stories of community members directly affected who are brave enough to share the fear and the trauma that has impacted Minnesota's families who are not secured on our state roads. I want you to think about those families. I want you to think about those children. I want to share a story that was expressed 2 weeks ago at Northfield City Hall by Human Rights Commissioner Bruce Norman, who expressed the importance of this matter to be directed after witnessing a family with children stuck in a ditch from a car accident, stuck pulling members out of the vehicle who were badly injured and ran off into the farmland in fear of deportation, when most of us with the privilege of a driver's license would have stayed on the scene to await emergency medical assistance for our children and ourselves. I want to thank members of their Human Rights Commission for supporting a letter of resolution for House Bill 4. I implore the members of this committee to move swiftly in addressing a 20-year debt to the people of the state of Minnesota. I implore this body to advance driver's licenses for all legislation. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Representative Perez-Vega. Before we go to public testimony, I would like to offer members of the committee an opportunity to ask any additional questions of the authors. And of course, we'll, after the public testimony this evening, we'll have a full committee discussion. There's additional amendments that we'll also be discussing as well. And we'll have a conversation before final passage. But if there are questions now, we'll entertain those. as well. Are there any questions of members of the committee? Okay, well, thank you very much to the authors, and of course, we'll be hearing more from you. Now, to our committee members in the public, we will turn to public testimony. And I would just ask members of the public who are testifying to please keep your comments short. The guideline is 2 minutes. We have about 20 testifiers here before 10 o'clock. That should offer plenty of time for everyone to get their testimony in. Obviously, if there are committee members that have questions of testifiers, please indicate to our clerk, and then we will call on you. But for those that are testifying again, please keep it short. Really, we want to hear from everybody, but we also want to make sure that those who have signed up have the opportunity to testify as well. So we want to get everybody in who's on the list. We have a combination of people who are going to be here in person. We have a number of people also on Zoom, so you can certainly direct your attention to the screens on either side of the room for the Zoom testimony. So with that, our first testifier is Alejandra Chavez Rivas, and I think she is joining us by Zoom.
Good morning, all. Thank you for having me. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Alejandra Chavez Rivas, and I am a DACA recipient and a member of the Minnesota Catholic Conference Social Concerns Committee. And I'm here to testify in support of HF4, Driver's License for All. Although DACA has alleviated some of the fear I had growing up of being deported and not allowing me to go to school, it has provided hope. I'm a graduate of the University of St. Thomas. It has allowed me to work legally and permitted me to get my driver's license here in Minnesota. And as I say that I'm allowed to have my driver's license here in Minnesota, it is tied to my DACA status. My junior year at the University of St. Thomas, I lost my license. I wasn't able to renew my DACA because of, I think, the changing in presidents. They halted all of the DACA renewals. And in that, I was a junior, I was a student, I was a single mother, driving my daughter from Monticello to St. Paul, also driving myself to school every single day, and it paralyzed me. I was in fear of getting deported. I was in fear of graduating. I didn't know what the future held for me. And in that, I'm here as I stand here today, urging you guys to consider, urging you to consider my story as a testament. The DACA isn't a solution to the current state of what we have right now with licenses. I ask for a plea in permanence for driver's license for all. We are missing this tool as a necessary means for a better and more secure future for myself and those that I know and hold dearly in my heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chavez Rivas. Our next testifier is Rabbi Marcia Zimmerman from Temple Israel in Minneapolis.
Thank you, Chair Hornstein and the members of the Transportation Finance and Policy Committee. I also want to thank Representative Gomez and Representative Perez Vega for presenting this bill, HF4, in which I am speaking in support of. I am committed to restoring access to driver's licenses without an end and regardless to any kind of concern of status. It is something that is not a new issue. If you want to look at the 5 books of Moses, there is a concept of ger toshav. It is actually someone who travels with you, but comes from a different culture and a different land. It is somebody who is a part of your community, but is from a variety of different places. This happened in the Torah and the 5 books of Moses, and it happens today. So a ger toshav is a fellow traveler, and that's why we're here at the Transportation Committee, because we want to make sure that traveling is very much a part of what it means to have an idea and full access to a community in which one lives. this is an important idea. You see, in the ancient tradition, as people came from different cultures and different countries, they became part of the Israelite community. They lived and worked within the community and were, of course, given the amazing benefits and the responsibilities of what that means. They got the Shabbat off, just like every Israelite did, a day of rest. And so here we have aspiring citizens who build homes, our houses, who build and take care of the elderly, who go to high school and college and need access to transportation for the health and welfare of their families and for nutrition and education. And so this is not an us and them, it is a we. And that is what the Torah teaches us, that it is a we. We are responsible for everyone in our community who puts roots and connected to us. And so transportation is an essential piece to the puzzle of thriving within the state of Minnesota. We know that after all that we've experienced over these last weeks of weather, you need transportation and you need to make sure that those who have access to the driver's licenses is for all. So I just want to end by saying this is not the first time that we address these issues of having a diverse culture and what it means to be a whole community, but this is our time, and our time demands that we support HF4.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Zimmerman. It's always good to have a constituent testifying here. Full disclosure, she's my wife. I'm very proud. We have a couple more members of the faith community here that are going to speak. Now we have Pastor Doug Mork. Is the pastor here? Welcome to the committee, Pastor. Please state your name for the record. I forgot to say that. Please state your name for our record and proceed with your testimony.
Sure, thank you. I'm Pastor Doug Mork. Thank you, Chair and committee members and authors. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm one of the pastors at Holy Trinity Lutheran Church in Minneapolis, Director of the Building Dignity and Respect Standards Council, and I also share these remarks on behalf of my bishop, Bishop Ann Svenningson, Bishop of the 141 congregations of the Minneapolis Area Synod. The most profound call of my faith tradition is the call to love neighbor and build the common good. It is anchored in a vision of God's abundance, where no one is left out, where all have access to the goodness God provides. There are countless reasons why extending driver's license, regardless of immigration status, benefits me, my congregation, my children, my community, all Minnesotans. You've heard them. Makes our roads safer, decreases the number of people driving without insurance, increases economic activity and revenue, increase access to many important institutions like my congregation, for example, or schools or clinics or all the other services that we all need. But really more than that, it isn't about me or about the broad benefit in that sense. This is an issue of respect and dignity. It's about inclusion and justice. We ask a great deal of our immigrant neighbors. We ask them to rejuvenate our workplaces, especially in some of the hardest jobs in our economy. We ask them to energize our shrinking main streets and schools. We ask them to process and prepare our food and build our housing and clean our buildings, sometimes alongside us, sometimes on their own. We ask them to pay taxes. The list, of course, could go on. But on top of increased vulnerability to exploitation at work and home, on top of substandard working and living conditions, we continue to deny our immigrant neighbors access to critical, safe, and legal ways to transport themselves and their families. It's time to bring this shameful practice to an end. Minnesota can do better. We can all do better. We need driver's licenses for all. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Pastor Moore. Our next testifier is Imam Ahmed Anshu. Welcome to the committee, Imam. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Ahmed Anshur. Good morning to the Chair and distinguished representatives. I am Imam Ahmed Anshur. I'm the Executive Director of Al-Ihsan Islamic Center at 955 West Minnehaha Avenue, St. Paul, Minnesota. I urge you to approve the driver license for all bill, HF4. To me, the core issue is about the basic human dignity of all people. Refusing to issue state ID for some people deprives them of the ability to work or move about and places them in constant risk of arrest. In short, it deprives people of basic dignity. God reminds us about this in a way that generalizes, the dignity of human being. God says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ ورزقناهم من الطيبات وفضلناهم على كثير ممن خلقنا تفضيلا. Which translates, and we have certainly honored the children of Adam on the land and the sea, and provided for them of the good things, and preferred them over most of all creations. The lack of state-issued ID deprives the dignity from people of all races and ethnicities. But it particularly impacts our Latino community. As a Muslim faith leader, I feel compelled to stand next to my Latino neighbors on this important issue. Roads would be safer, workers could get to their jobs easier, and fewer people would live in fear if we pass this bill. I believe depriving our community members the right to drive is a political stance and not a common sense law. It is about marginalizing and targeting some of our most important contributors to our economy. In conclusion, we want to increase human dignity. We are a people of faith. We believe in God. We believe we have to stand in front of God to answer for how we treated our fellow human beings. Please vote for human dignity for all. Please vote for an inclusive society. Please approve the driver license for all bill, HF4. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Imam. Next, we have Benjamin Vanegas. Benjamin Vanegas, also a pastor, and welcome to the committee.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
Please state your name for the record.
Thanks. Mi nombre es el pastor Benjamín Vanegas.
My name is Benjamin Vanegas.
Soy pastor de la Iglesia Cristiana Nueva Jerusalén en Rochester
I am a pastor in Rochester and a New Jerusalem church.
y represento a mi comunidad.
I represent my community.
Nosotros en Rochester,
We in Rochester,
la comunidad latina,
the Latino community,
necesitamos que ustedes
we need that you,
nos tomen en cuenta para
Take
obtener
us in
una
consideration.
licencia de manejo,
in order to obtain a driver's license,
ya que es muy importante
due to the fact that it's very important,
porque no podemos nosotros darnos a conocer, sobre todo ante las autoridades,
but we cannot disclose ourselves to the authorities
porque manejamos,
because we drive.
trabajamos, tenemos que
we
movernos
work,
en alguna parte
we have to move around,
y muchas veces hay muchos testimonios
and there are many
y
times there are plenty of
dentro de
testimonies.
mi comunidad a la que estoy representando
And coming from the community that I represent,
se les ha parado la policía
they've been pulled over by the
y
police,
no pueden dar una
and
identificación
they are not able to provide with identification.
y uno de los problemas que cautivó hace unos 2 años atrás
And one of the problems that captured us years ago,
una familia
it is a family
llevaba a sus hijos a la escuela.
was taking their children to school.
Lo paró la policía porque tenía una luz que no funcionaba.
They got stopped by the
Trasera.
police because one of the lights of the car
Y se
in the
dio-
back did not work.
Y se dio cuenta que no tenía licencia
And it realized
ni
that
aseguranza
didn't have a driver license,
y fue,
neither
fue
insurance,
detenido.
and he was detained.
No duró mucho tiempo detenido
It did not last long in detention,
y se lo llevaron a migración
and he was taken to immigration
y fue deportado.
and was deported.
Esa familia
That family
quedó sola
that was left alone
sin el soporte del padre.
without the support of the father,
3 hijos y la esposa.
3 children and the wife.
Nuestra comunidad
Our community
necesita que ustedes
needs that you
nos ayuden
help us
a obtener esta
to
identificación
obtain this
que es muy
identification
indispensable
that it's very, very indispensable
para nosotros poder, por ejemplo, sacar una cuenta de bancaria.
for us to even obtain a bank account.
Queremos un auto,
Or if we want to buy a car,
no podemos tener con qué identificar.
we cannot do it because we don't have a
O
document
posiblemente
that to
podemos
identify
sacar un
ourselves.
auto,
Or probably we can obtain a car,
pero nos cobran demasiados intereses.
but they charge us a
Por querer
high
obtener
level
un
of
auto.
interest because we don't have an identification.
Les pido de favor
So I ask you, please,
que no nos dejen en el limbo.
do not leave us in the limbo.
Es necesario
It is necessary
obtener una identificación.
to obtain an identification.
Hay muchos testimonios
There are
más,
plenty of testimonies
pero
out
sé
there,
que es corto el tiempo,
but I know that I'm short in time.
pero queremos que nos tomen en cuenta.
But we want you to pay attention to us.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Venegas. Gracias. I don't know if Steve Soika, the sheriff of Stearns County, is here or joining us on Zoom, but I know that he was signed up. Is the sheriff with us? Okay, we'll move to the next testifier. Pong Zhang, the Director of Driver and Vehicle Services at the Department of Public Safety, is here. Welcome back to the committee, Mr. Zhang. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Hornstein. Pong Zhang, Director of Driver and Vehicle Services. Good morning, Chair Hornstein and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on this really important bill. DVS is extremely proud to support the 4.6 million active credentials in the system today. We recognize that 4.6 million, while it's a very big number, we're very proud of that. That is not inclusive of all. And DVS supports expanding the availability of credentials to all Minnesotans, regardless of their ability to demonstrate legal presence. This bill increases and expands the equity to resources and services that a credential affords Minnesotans, and that is, we recognize how extremely important that is for everyone. We also recognize that having Minnesotans go through the process to obtain a credential allows for more safe drivers on the road when they understand Minnesota laws and understand how to navigate the roads. In order to implement this bill, we need not only to conduct the exams and to process the credentials, but we need to be able to review the applications, and we need to be able to train our staff for all the documents and all the processes that will come along with this. And we appreciate the author's amendment to provide funding ongoing. This will be ongoing work, and we really appreciate that recognition. And then lastly, and just in closing, we would like to offer that an October 1 effective date, while we're very excited for the work. We think that will be just a little bit short of a turnaround time. We think we can get the technology ready, but in order for us to get our processes in place and be prepared for this change, we recommend a January effective date. With that, I'll stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zhang.
Mr.
And,
Chair?
Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just inquiring if he and others from the departments will be available later tonight during discussion of the bill itself for questions about things.
Mr. Zhang, would you be available for questions later, or should we have those now?
Mr. Chair, Representative Hornsey, Representative Petersburg, we will be available, and we're happy to answer questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I think we'll have probably some more questions in the evening before we adopt the bill and have a committee discussion. So if you could return, I think we have one in the queue. Thank you very much. Our next testifier is Soraya and Silva from MIRAC.
Good morning.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Sarai, yes.
Welcome to the committee, and please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Silva. I'm a member of MIRAC, which is Minnesota Immigration Rights Action Committee. I've been personally impacted by this law, the rescind of driver's license since 2006. I was 16 at the time. At that time, well, moving forward, I turned 19. I was in a multiple car collision. I did not have a license at the time. It left me with a ticket of $700 and no way to get home. My parents also don't have a driver's license, didn't have a driver's license at the time, so I couldn't get a ride home, right? It left them with a high insurance rate that they could not afford. It left me without a job as well, simply because I could not get a ride, and now I didn't have a car either. To be frank, I find it quite disrespectful and degrading. The government's action feeds off of and depends on the re-traumatization of testimonials like mine. Without a license, avoiding truancy in school was ridiculously difficult. Without a license, finding and maintaining a job was nearly impossible. Without a license, I walked home consistently at 10 p.m. in winter storms, just because I was scared of being pulled over. The state's negligence and inhumanity has marked my childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. It has left me with fear and anger, fear of the police interaction and deportation at the time, and anger at a state system that purposefully excluded me at that time, and still does, and then proceeded to persecute me for it. Almost 20 years of government silence and action speaks volumes of you, and the silence is very loud. The state of Minnesota created and led a campaign of terror and violence against the migrant community by weaponizing our need for transportation and identification. Your words of support and faith mean nothing until the bill is passed. Clean bill is passed. If you're not able to do your work at this time, I beg you, please let others do it successfully. I conclude by thanking the community and our allies here today, who have given endless hours of their time building a safe, equitable, and inclusion Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next on our list is Bernie Burnham from the Minnesota AFL-CIO. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Bernie Burnham, and I am the president of the Minnesota AFL-CIO, the Union of Unions. So good morning, Chair Hornstein and members of the committee. I'm here today to speak in favor of restoring access to driver's licenses for all, regardless of immigration status. Immigrants were and are essential in building our country as laborers and immigrant workers played an integral role in fighting the pandemic and keeping Minnesota moving forward. All Minnesotans deserve to be eligible for a standard Class D driver's license. Labor firmly stands behind this legislation, knowing it will improve the lives of adults and all of our children. When this legislation is passed, it will improve safety for all Minnesotans. Drivers will need to pass a written and driving test to get their license, ensuring all drivers are certified. It also means they are required to purchase auto insurance. We talk about equity in the state of Minnesota all the time. Restoring driver's licenses for all will ensure that parents can get their children better access to health care, nutrition, and educational opportunities. In many rural areas of our state, there's minimal or none at all access to public transportation. Our friends and neighbors need to be able to have a driver's license to meet basic needs for a successful life, regardless of where they live. Currently, there are 18 states and the District of Columbia have enacted laws to allow driver's licenses for all. Up until 2003, and I know you know this, Minnesota allowed the issuance of driver's licenses regardless of immigration status or possession of a valid social security number. At that time, access was unilaterally eliminated. It is time to right this wrong. If we are truly to be one Minnesota, we must make this happen. Please do the right thing and restore driver's licenses for all. The Minnesota AFL-CIO, again, firmly stands behind this. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yes.
Our next testifier is Regina Olono. Welcome to the committee, and please state your name for the record.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Hornstein, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Regina Olono Vidalis, and I am a leader with Unidos, Minnesota, and part of the undocumented youth here in the state. I am here today to speak in favor of House File 4, the Driver's Licenses for All bill. This past May, I recently graduated from Gustavus Adolphus College in St. Peter, Minnesota. I was lucky enough that I could walk most of my campus, but it became increasingly difficult my senior year, when I lived further away from campus and suffered an injury that prevented me from physically walking to class. I had to rely on friends or classmates for rides to campus, as public transportation wasn't exactly the easiest there. But knowing the hectic life of college students, I never had a guarantee. This became a barrier to my learning, to internship opportunities, and to extracurricular activities. Undocumented students struggled to get to class every single day. While I was able to figure it out and graduate, this issue continues to affect my day-to-day life. After graduating, I returned to my political home at Unidos, Minnesota, because I wanted to give back to my community. I began volunteering around electoral work and immigration, but the barriers didn't stop. Our folks meet across the state all the time, and it's a huge area to cover when you don't have a license. I struggle to meet with my community, and my community struggles to get to us purely because of physical distance. People like us live in fear every day, just from going to work, to class, to go get groceries, you name it. This is an issue of transportation, accessibility, education, public safety, and so much more. People should not have to just figure it out. People should not have to live in fear every single day. I urge members of this committee, regardless of party affiliation, to support this bill and to help us all live dignified lives. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Our next testifier is Laura Bordelon from the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce. Yeah. And I think, was there another person that was going to join you?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members.
Welcome to the committee.
Thank you very much. My name is Laura Bordelon. I'm the Senior Vice President for Advocacy with the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce. I am also here on behalf of several other employer groups that include AgriGrowth, the Minnesota Pork Producers, and the Minnesota Milk Producers. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on House File 4. Minnesota businesses value the contributions of immigrants to our state. Their role as workers, entrepreneurs, and consumers are important to the development and growth of our economy and our communities. Minnesota employers are facing an increasingly acute workforce shortage in nearly every industry statewide. In addition, we are experiencing record low unemployment, high labor force participation rates, and a net migration pattern of more individuals leaving Minnesota for other states than are moving here. Immigrants are a key solution to this challenge. They may be our only source of net population growth over the next decade if patterns hold. Our groups support House File 4. Minnesota employers rely on immigrant workers to serve their customers and produce the goods and services we use and enjoy. In many instances, the place of work may be some distance away from home. To get back and forth safely, workers should complete driver's training and licensing requirements, including securing insurance. This not only benefits workers and their employers, but other Minnesota drivers. Our groups support federal immigration reform and recognize that as we wait for immigration solutions on the federal level, the state has a role in dealing with state-specific issues. This bill addresses a state-based concern and a state public safety and employment need. The bipartisan work on this issue in the past has been instrumental in moving this policy forward. We hope that will continue as the bill makes its way through the legislative process, increasing and gaining support from both sides of the aisle. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And we also have Jill Sims from Hospitality Minnesota, who is also available. Thank you very much for your attendance. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members. My name is Jill Sims, and I'm the Director of Government Relations for Hospitality Minnesota, representing Minnesota's restaurant and food service, hotel and lodging, and resort and campground sectors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of House File 4. Hospitality Minnesota has long supported a common sense approach to immigration reform that includes providing workers the opportunity to obtain driving credentials. Driver's license for all is an important component of eliminating obstacles for workers to safely and reliably connect with their employers. Across the state, Minnesota's hospitality industry is highly dependent on immigrant workers to staff our restaurants, hotels, and resorts. The pandemic exacerbated Minnesota's declining workforce, and the hospitality industry has continued to be challenged with a shortage of more than 20,000 workers from pre-pandemic levels. In today's tight labor market, the workforce shortage continues to be one of the biggest challenges to recovery for our state's hospitality and tourism industry. As immigrants help fill the worker shortage gap for many companies in our industry and contribute to all aspects of Minnesota's communities and economy, we believe it is important that workers are able to access driving privileges. When driving privileges are open for all, not only can workers get to and from their jobs legally and safely, but it opens opportunity for more workers to help alleviate supply chain and transportation challenges that so many of our businesses face. To date, 18 states across the country have enacted laws to provide immigrant driving credentials, and this session, Minnesota has a unique opportunity to help hospitality businesses and employees alike by taking a common sense approach on accessing driving privileges for all. We thank Representative Gomez for bringing forward this important legislation. This is a practical solution that will increase safe and reliable transportation for workers, benefiting greater Minnesota and metro areas alike. We encourage members to support House File 4. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Mr. John Pacheco from the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Minnesota, and also my Metropolitan Council member. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. My name is John Pacheco, and I'm president of the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Minnesota, as well as a Met Council member as well. But today I'm here representing the Latino Chamber of Commerce. And we have over 600 members across the state in Minnesota. Our goal is to facilitate the economic growth of Latino businesses and by extension, the economic growth of Minnesota. And then believe me, not having a driver's license is a significant barrier. And for the business owners, the employees, and families. For the business owner, It's how do you bring customers to your door? It's how do you hire employees that can reach the populations you work with and our community works with. Around employees, I mean, there's a day go by that somebody's not calling our office or emailing, texting every way they can, says, I'm looking for workers. I'm looking for workers. And if you look at it, where our economy is growing in the so-called gig economy, look at how many jobs right now require you to have a driver's license. Can you be part of DoorDash? Can you be part of a delivery system? Amazon, who has truck drivers and the like. How do you do that? And especially in today, when you apply for a job, you apply online. And the question is, do you have a driver's license? No explanation. You say no, well, we're done for that one. And so the economy that we deal with, it's important that you have a driver's license. For the employee, a potential employee, to have that part of that economy gone, but also then supporting your own family and supporting your children and your community. And having these employees, potential employees, sitting on the bench waiting is unacceptable. And you've heard the impact on families, and I couldn't stress that enough. It's often referred to and often looked at as an individual right. But I will tell you, it is not the individual's driver's license, it's the family's driver's license. And many of you experienced that when your child became 16 or 17 and now got a driver's license. There went taking them to the ballpark. There went taking them to the basketball game or to the choir or to the other things. That is a household license. It is not an individual license, although the individual applies for it. And so we really support this here because it has this added effect of how it brings the family together and how we address issues. And if we look at it, again, the greater Minnesota has a greater impact when you don't have a driver's license. I've had people call our office and say, do they have a driver's license? More importantly, do they have a truck? And so it's beyond just this driving just back and forth that you would see to the facility. We also understand that the driver's license is a privilege. It's not a right. You have to earn it. You have to be able to drive this vehicle. You have to pass a test. You have to follow the rules. And we believe that what was written here in this legislation provides that opportunity and provides everybody that privilege, the opportunity to drive and take advantage of the privileges that are allowed here in Minnesota. And so we urge you to support driver's license for all. We do believe it is for all. And we urge you again to support this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Appreciate it. Next up, we have Henry Jimenez from the Latino Economic Development Center. He's the Executive Director and President. Thank you so much for being here. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Yeah, buenos dias, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Henry Jimenez. I'm the Executive Director of the Latino Economic Development Center here in Minnesota. We're here to support House File 4 for multiple reasons, but the most important for us is that it's good for small business and it's good for the workforce. The Latino Economic Development Center has supported hundreds of small businesses across the state in the last 20 years. In the last 2 years, 2.5 years during the pandemic, we supported businesses received up to $22 million in support. During this time, this body, members of this body, asked me and many of our colleagues, what can we do to support small businesses? And we gave you a lot of recommendations, and many of them you implemented, and I appreciate that. This is another recommendation. Businesses need clients, and clients need to access our businesses. And when I think of businesses in greater Minnesota where the vast geography and access to transportation is difficult, that means it's difficult for our clients to access our businesses. It's a business decision here to support this. And so I urge you to support House File 4. I also want you to know that our agriculture sector and our meatpacking sector really needs this. They might not tell you this, but I could tell you that those farmers and those meatpacking workers need to get to their work. Our state needs these workers to get to their work of business. So I'm telling you, based on what our colleague organizations and what we've seen in the last 20 years, House File 4 is overdue, and I'm glad that it's here. Thank you. And I hope that you will yes on this. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Grace Waltz from the Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members, and authors. My name is Grace Waltz. I serve as the Vice President of Public Policy at the Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here today to speak in support of House File 4. Back in 2020, the Minneapolis Regional Chamber commissioned a report that highlights the critical role that our immigrant and refugee communities play in our regional economy, from spending power to the workforce. As of 2019, immigrants and refugees made up 14.9% of the total population for the city of Minneapolis and leveraged $1.2 billion in spending power. While immigrants and refugees make up nearly 15% of the total population, they make up 17.4% of the working age population and are over 20% more likely to be of working age than their US-born counterparts. This report also confirmed what many of us already knew. Immigrants and refugees played a critical role in our region's ability to weather the pandemic. They made up 42% of the essential services workforce, 18% of healthcare workers, 18% of food service workers, 25% of transportation and warehousing workers, and 15% of the essential retail trade workforce. These industries that are already disproportionately populated by immigrants and refugees are some of the very same industries that are still struggling to find workers today. While the Minneapolis Regional Chamber is a strong advocate for expanding access to multimodal transit and transportation options, we recognize the reality is that most people need a car to get to and from work, and employers need and want them to be able to do that safely. While we know we need meaningful and comprehensive immigration reform at the federal level, we believe this legislation will go a long way in helping meet the immediate needs of employers and enable our immigrant and refugee neighbors to continue making a stronger and more vibrant Twin Cities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Waltz. We'll sort of round out our business and commerce panel here, if you will, with Caitlin View. Is Kate? Sorry. On Zoom. She's joining on Zoom.
Good morning.
Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Caitlin Vu. I have been a Minnesota resident for over 30 years. I live in Forest Lake. I am a small business owner. I came to America when I was only 5 years old. I saw how my parents struggled to find a job and support our family. They could barely speak English and they couldn't communicate with their American co-workers. Now I am lucky enough to have my own small business where I manage an employment agency that specializes in supporting immigrants and refugees to find jobs and help them transition into the workforce. Most of our workers are from Asia, Africa, and Mexico. I have been very fortunate to be able to help a lot of new immigrants and refugees find jobs and build their experiences working into the Western work environment. They are willing to work hard manual labor jobs that do not require a lot of technical skills, training, and these jobs require a workforce that is willing to work hard, willing to work long and sometimes unpredictable hours. They fill a very important need for Minnesota companies. Unfortunately, in the past 10 years, I have witnessed the growing challenge of finding good, reliable employees to fill positions that often require hard manual labors. There are not enough people to fill these jobs, or people who want to work cannot access reliable transportation. With COVID, the work The worker shortage is even more severe and employers are even more desperate. Many people tell me they cannot obtain a driver's license, so they cannot work. Many people cannot get a driver's license because they don't have the right paperwork or that they lost their immigration status. The immigrants and refugees that come to my agency want to work, but without transportation and access to a driver's license, they cannot work, they cannot support their family, and that means I cannot help them get a job. We both lose. I have a potential employee and I lost a potential employee and they lost a potential income. As employee, I urge the Minnesota House of Representatives to pass the driver's license for all bill so we can hire in the good and reliable employees so our employees can get to their jobs in a timely and safe manner. And so we don't have to struggle to find good employees to fill hard manual labors. Please create policies that encourage people to join the workforce and not discourage them from working. Minnesota employees, Minnesota business, big and small, need as many willing and able employees as possible to fill the severe worker shortage. Thank you for letting me share my experiences with you. Thank you to all those working hard to make everyone in Minnesota to have access to a driver's license.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And now I believe that Sheriff Soika has joined us via Zoom. Is the sheriff available?
Good morning.
Thank you. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
My name is Steve Soika. I'm the sheriff of Stearns County, located in central Minnesota. And I appreciate the opportunity to voice my support for this bill. I think that it covers several different topics that relate to public safety and law enforcement in general. Number one, by doing this, it allows for the proper identification of parties in Minnesota. Does not necessarily change their immigration status, but it allows for a proper identification for parties when they're having interactions with the court systems, law enforcement, or other government entities to better ID the people that are involved in incidents that we might be involved in, and also if they're using any type of government service. It allows the state to better track people that might have traffic violations and might be repeat offenders that we might need to know about. I guess I'd be looking for, and in the bill, to have some type of requirement that involves the party to attend some type of driving school and take the driver's test like everyone else. And I think in turn that makes the state's roads safer. You have better trained and licensed people to operate on our roads. The reality is that a majority of these parties are probably driving anyways for work purposes, and to have them properly licensed with proper training just increases the safety for everyone involved. Stearns County is a large county, 8th largest in Minnesota, with a very large farming and agricultural industry, and migrant workers are a staple of those industries, and it's important, I think, for them to be able to go to work, to be able to make a paycheck, but also to do so safely and operate on our roads safely, and to be responsible drivers out there. So I thank you for your time, and I support HF4.
Thank you so much for your testimony, Sheriff. We have several more testifiers to round out our morning here. Is Commander Falkowski here? Or Commander, welcome. Good morning. Welcome to the Transportation Committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. I'm Sherry Falkowski. I work at the St. Paul Police Department. Been there for over 25 years, and I'm a commander.
Welcome.
We believe that this bill makes Minnesota roads safer. Many people on the roads currently have no license, have no insurance, and that's by their choice. But now this bill will allow people to be compliant. The people that want to do so are able to do so. We understand in law enforcement, we see accidents because people sometimes don't understand the rules of the road. This will enable people to have a better understanding. The more educated drivers we have on the roadways, the safer we're all gonna be. In law enforcement, when someone has a picture ID, a driver's license, it makes our job simpler, it makes things quicker. It also creates less exposure to law enforcement and also less stress on that individual. So we encourage this bill and we want to make Minnesota roads safer.
Thank you so much, Commander Falkowski. Next, we have Abina Abraham. She's joining us Abina's joining us on Zoom. Welcome to the committee.
My name is Abina. Thank you.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Abina Abraham. I'm one of the co-founders and co-directors of Black Immigrant Collective. We're a Black-led immigrant organization that works at the intersections of Blackness and immigration. I'm here because I believe driver's license for all is important. Access to a driver's license is a basic necessity. Black immigrants, like all Black people in Minnesota, are targeted by the police because of the high amount of racial profiling. Driving while Black continues to be an issue in our state. Black drivers are stopped far more than our share of the driving age population. We are 214% more likely to be pulled over. When you look around, you will not see many Black undocumented immigrants being public about their statuses. This is why they fear profiling. We know that while Black immigrants only make up 7% of the immigrant population, we make up 25% of immigrants in detention or facing deportation. Many of our members that are currently in detention are there due to an encounter with police during a racist traffic stop. Undocumented people drive this for the same reasons why many of you drive: to go to work, to run errands, take their children to after-school activities, drive to the park and mall, go to their place of worship. We love public transportation, but we know that it is not accessible to people who live in the suburbs, and worse for those who live in greater Minnesota. The ability to move freely improves our collective quality of life. As you consider this bill, we'd like to highlight the following. Number one, we demand that immigrants have access to the same standard ID that all Minnesotans have access to, and that there are no markings indicating their status, as this will provide ICE with information they can utilize for enforcement and for surveillance. And number two, it's unnecessary to use cheap talking points claiming that undocumented immigrants will use their IDs to vote. There is no historical evidence of this happening in Minnesota or anywhere else in the country. It is important that access to driver's licenses is reinstated for undocumented immigrants in Minnesota. For the past 20 years, we've been used as political chess pieces, and we say no more. The time is now. This is not a political issue. This is a family and quality of life issue. Passing this legislation is long overdue, and our community is counting on lawmakers in the Capitol to do right by our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony and for joining us. Next, we have also joining us on Zoom, Martha Castanon.
Good morning, buenos dias. My name is Marta Castañón, and I work with the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota here in the Moorhead, Minnesota office. So I'm clear across the state. First, I want to thank those who have testified before me. There were some very powerful testimonials from Saraí and Pastor Vanegas. Those testimonials are also ones that I have heard in my office from clients. I cannot emphasize enough to pass House File 4, because not having a driver's license causes so many barriers, as many of you have already heard. There are many undocumented immigrants that want to do the right thing. They want to follow the law, but they want to be able to drive here and to from their homes, either to their place of work, to the schools, be able to attend their schools, their children's activities without having to depend on somebody else to give them a ride, which, after time and time again, it gets kind of old. for those who have DACA status, sometimes their parents are depending on them to take them to and from for errands. So I can't say enough the importance of passing this House file. It is long overdue. Many people want to be able to drive safely and without any fear, and will give them more peace in their life. And it will be a big boost to the economy. Here in Northwest Minnesota, there's very little public transport unless you're living in the cities of Moorhead or East Grand Forks, Crookston, some of the larger communities. But there are many rural communities in Northwest Minnesota and Central Minnesota who do not have public transport. And people need to move around. So thank you again for having me here. And I hope you all pass this House File 4. It is so important, and it would make Minnesota nice, a lot more Minnesota nice. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Juan Pomakisa. Juan, welcome.
Good morning. My name is Juan Pomakisa, and I am originally from Ecuador, and I speak 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Quechua. I am also a member of Minnesota Immigrant Movement. I am currently employed in a community center as a food shelf manager, in which we serve approximately 85% of Latinx community. Today, I want to share one of the many stories and challenges that I see at work with the people I serve who are not able to have a driver's license, and the magnitude of impact that this has on their families and their well-being. Maria is 40 years old with no transportation and no driver's license. One day, she was waiting in the lobby for half a day until I approached her and asked if everything was okay or if she needed help. She said that she didn't have a way to get home, and no one was able to give her a ride. As a good Samaritan, I took upon myself to offer her a ride. During the commute, she shared how hard and stressful it is not to have a driver's license. She currently is unemployed because most of the jobs are far and requires driving a long distance, and she is afraid that perhaps she could be stopped by the police. If obtaining a driver's license was accessible and would make her life financially stable, secure, and prosperous. Her story is just one of the many stories that I see every day at my job. As a young person, hearing Maria's stories of what she faces every day triggered me to see what my parents experience and how difficult it is to not move around, not having the ability to provide transportations for my siblings to go to school, doctor's appointments, and other essential activities. There was a time when my mom had to walk in the snow for hours with my siblings and I because she didn't have a driver's license that allowed her to drive. Therefore, I'm speaking on behalf of those voices that until today are hiding in the shadows and struggling because they don't have a driver's license and live in fear of being separated from their families. Chair Hornstein and members of the Transportation Committee. Once again, my name is Juan Pomakisa, and I'm a member of Minnesota Immigrant Movement. And I ask for your support and leadership to pass this bill, House File 4, and take into consideration all these testimonies that are here today. Thank you. Muchas gracias. And you by Chen.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Amelia Gonzalez-Avalos will be reading a letter from the Minnesota Agri-Growth Council. And we'll also distribute that at some point as well, but we want to have this written into the read into the record. Welcome to the committee, and please state your name for the record.
Thank you so much, Chairman Hornstein and members of the committee. My name is Emilia Gonzalez-Avalos. I am Executive Director of Unidos Minnesota. We are a statewide base building organization that builds power for social, racial, and economic justice in the Latino community. And I am privileged to be accountable to hundreds of mixed status families that include thousands of essential workers across the state of Minnesota. And I am about to read a letter. I am not a member of AgriGrowth and we don't have a formal partnership, but this letter is a testimonial on how employers, corporate employers, and employees are on the same page on the issue. And the letter goes like this. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, we support House File 4. Minnesota business value the contributions of immigrants to our state. Their role as workers, entrepreneurs, and consumers are important to the development and growth of our economy and our communities. We support House File 4 for workforce and public safety reasons. Our state is experiencing acute workforce shortages in almost every industry in every community. Unemployment rates remain at historic lows. Labor participation rate is 6th highest nationally, and the pattern of more residents leaving than staying in Minnesota further exacerbates our workforce shortage. Immigrant workers are key to this challenge. Minnesota employers rely on immigrant workers to serve their customers and produce the variety of products and services we use and enjoy. To do this safely, workers should complete driver's license training, testing, and licensing requirements, including security insurance. We believe that this will make roads safe for all drivers and enhance the work and community contributions of immigrant workers. We collectively support federal immigration reform, and as we wait for solutions on the federal level, the state also has a role in dealing with state-specific issues on this matter. This legislation addresses a state-based concern and a state employment and public safety need. Thank you for your consideration. Signed, AgriGrowth, Minnesota Meat Producers Association, Minnesota Pork Producers, and Minnesota Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that letter with us. Okay, we have a couple more testifiers here from the morning. I'd like to call on Carla Moreno. Okay, maybe, okay. Is Humberto Fernandez available as well? Maybe as they're, I think they're in the room across the hall. Maybe as they're making their way over here, we could take up the fiscal note. And I know that's before us now. Oh, you're here. Excellent. All right, great. We'll do the fiscal note before we break for the evening. Mr. Moreno, welcome to the committee. Please state your name for, I'm sorry, Humberto Fernandez, yes. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
My name is Humberto Fernandez. I want to say thank you for giving me a chance to be here. Everybody took almost all the points we need. My point is, 18 states in this country, they have a driver license. You know why? Because Hispanic people, the hardworking people, like me, I went to school here, I got a diploma here, I speak English like you, I read English like you, and now I can do it, what I love to do, work. I can be bilingual, Social Security. I mean, only we need is you got the power. You got the power to do the right thing. And the right thing is give us a driver license. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And now Carla is here, I believe. Carla Moreno.
Thank you very much.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Carla Moreno Dominguez. I'm a native Minnesotan, and I support the License for All campaign because I see that not only my family can be affected by this, but other second generations like me. ever since I was young, I've understand what it means for my mom to be undocumented. Here, it means constantly looking over your shoulder, even when you're done nothing wrong. Like that night, my mom got pulled over by the cops. I was around 4 years old when that happened, and we were coming from church to go home, and she got pulled over by the cops. I think it was simply because of her appearance, and that's why we need licenses now. Even after new legislators have been put in place, we do not feel safe in this country because at any small thing, you can get racially profiled. And it means, and in times, it means to get even deported. And ever since that night, I've wondered what would have happened if my mom had been deported that night. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate very much your being here. Okay, members, this concludes the testimony we have for the morning. I have an announcement I want to make first about the evening, a slight time change. But first, Representative Petersburg, I hope you feel we have enough time now, or you want to do it in the evening. I wanted to make sure that your questions and concerns about the fiscal note were addressed now that it's in front of us.
Well, I'll just, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just ask a brief, quick question and maybe more time later tonight afterwards. But specifically with this change of taking it all out of the special operating, the services operating account, do we know what balance is in that particular account at this point?
To that question, I think either we could have, it's probably more appropriate, Mr. Lee, if Department of Public Safety, DVS, answers that question. And they are here, I believe, still? Mr. Zhang? Mr. Zhang, welcome back. Did you hear Representative Petersburg's question?
Yes.
About the balance on the fund?
Yes, thank you, Chair Hornstein, Rep. Petersburg. While I don't have what the exact impact to the balance will be, we do recognize that will be a significant expenditure out of that account, and as we reconcile changes and different legislation that will impact the driver services operating account, I think we will need to consider how the balance of the account will end for the fiscal year.
Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So are we saying we think there is that amount of money in this special revenue account?
Mr. Zhang.
So, Chair Hornstein, Rep. Petersburg, I don't have that exact number. I can prepare that for another, or for the committee, but I don't have that number at the moment.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, maybe he can do that for tonight's meeting as well, and we can dispense with this now and then come back to it if we need to.
Okay. I see Mr. Zhang is consulting.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Well, you know, again, we have before us the A8. It has been moved. It's a amendment to get the bill in the shape that the author wants us to consider it. And I feel that we can move that at this point and answer some additional questions this evening if necessary. So to the A8 author's amendment, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, the motion prevails. Thank you very much. Okay, members, before we adjourn, I wanted to first thank the authors. I'm sorry, recess, we're not adjourned. Sorry. Before we recess, Let's get our terms straight here. I want to, first of all, thank the authors, and, but mainly, thank all of the testifiers. You know, members, it's rare that we have such a diverse group of people united in supporting legislation here. We had many business voices. We had labor. We had law enforcement. But most importantly, people directly affected by this issue. And so for everybody, I thank you for your testimony. The reason that this is the first bill that the Transportation Finance and Policy Committee is hearing this year is because of its urgency and its importance. And so we thank you for being here. We have a slight change in the plan for tonight. We've had a request from Representative Petersburg to meet at 6:30 instead of 6. Again, for those of you planning to come back at 6, you have another half hour. We will be meeting back in this room after we recess. It's at 6:30. 6:30 tonight here in room 120. That would accommodate your needs, Representative Petersburg? Yep. Okay. With that, the Transportation, Finance, and Policy Committee is in recess until 6:30 tonight.